Although hairbrushes were vital in SHTF, they took a lot of space. You never wanted to use other people's. If they had a little exchange on the base or whatever this was, Reagan tried to remind herself to try to pick one up. The rest of her clothes were fine. They were all breathable and whisked away moisture. Keeping them clean was simple as a little scrub from either a clean mop bucket or 2 clean 5-gallon buckets with the inner drilled with holes and a clean plunger with holes. She'd found a sports undertop at a store she raided early on that kept her supported packed in tight and kept itself dry and clean as well. Due to a braided silver mesh sandwiched between the fabric. She looked around for a little laundry basket and checked inside. It had what she'd expect in there and tossed her own in as well. Reagan would help with the laundry later. However it was, they did the laundry. Maybe the group was making their own soap and could power up the washing machines or whatever now. Hang their stuff to dry where nobody could get to it and steal it. Reagan imagined there wouldn't be any panty thieves around here, but you can never be too careful. She picked up her mom's AK-74 and slung it. The weight felt good in her hands, but she couldn't stop thinking about something in pistol caliber with common mags. She made another mental note: pistol caliber carbine with folding stock, chopped down barrel, threaded with a suppressor in the barrel shroud and a lower that took common 9mm mags. Take the side cheese grater rails off and put a thin foregrip on it. Reagan thought. Hopefully they have a cool armory here. She was sure they did. It wasn't long before her mom got out of the shower and threw her own undies in the little hamper. We'll take these to the laundry, kiddo. Then we got lots to do. Chapter 13. Then comes the rain, the coming weeks and months. Everything ended up fine at the new fortified town. Nobody knew where the electricity had come from. Only that they were hooked back up to the grid and it was working great. They only used the bare minimum electricity needed. The kids apparently had networked all their electronics together and got enough power from solar to power the electronics up. One of the kids wrote some kind of cracker program that jailbroke all the devices and combined them into one big device. It worked as a repository for all the information contained on the devices. Contained in all the FAQs, books, and knowledge repositories the kids had saved on their electronics, retained the information of how to connect them back to the power grid. Apparently a shockwave had gone through the system when the northern supply abruptly shut off and tripped all kinds of automatic fail-safes, and nobody knew how to turn it all back on and get the town rerouted to the other power sources. With the power back on, some huge blast doors became operational underneath their town. The security team cleared it, and it ended up being the Northwest's internet backbone. One by one, the server racks that had prior powered the entire internet on the Western Hemisphere turned back on and interfaced with the network the kids had made. It didn't take long for the kids to notice there was a prototype server that wasn't powering on. Once plugged in, the new computer ran at an exponentially faster rate than the entire room full of servers combined. It estimated it could run at a fraction of the energy than the rest of the server room together, and made the suggestion of turning them all off and leaving it on. The kids convened and decided this idea made sense if the new server's dashboard relayed was true. They left all their electronics plugged in and turned all the server racks off. The power consumption of the room dropped by 95%, but this new computer was operating at an exponentially geometric rate. Maybe it was plugged in during the crash and that overloaded it, and someone unplugged it or something and left it there. Who knows? Either way, it loaded up every game, app, and operating system from the kids' electronic devices into itself and promptly rewrote them all. The result of this was that the kids could interact with each other through a new terminal the server had generated. If they couldn't connect to it, they would peer-to-peer with each other's systems automatically and update that way autonomously of the server. Eventually, someone's system would be close enough to its router and keep it updated on their gaming processor. Operating systems. Progress. It created a new social game that was an amalgamation of everything the kids did on their electronic devices. They could share photos, chat, and play what was essentially the perfect game. No microtransactions, no grinding. They could create whatever they wanted just by talking to it. In the electronic device's downtime, the game would play itself based on all the prior emails, texts, and games and photos that were loaded. They could turn on their phone anytime and see what was going on in this new virtual world. It wasn't too long until everyone on the base was playing it in their spare time or watching it play itself. It kept everyone up to date on what everyone else was doing, but only shared the info with people that the user normally talked to. It woke people up when they needed to be awake all by itself. It told people where their friends were. It even managed everyone's health. There were suggestions on how to make the town more efficient, or when people were trying to have kids or not have kids, it would help them schedule that as well. It had a 100% accuracy rating on if people coming through the gate were good guys or bad guys, if they were legit. The server knew it right away. If they were bad guys, it could prioritize which to take out and which would integrate well with the town. It looped into Lena's cell phone and figured out she was the head of security right away and told her everything she needed to know. It knew when everyone was used to praying and reminded them when to go to bed, and when the laundry should be done, and when to feed the animals. It knew when people were happy and when people were sad, and it helped everyone be as happy as they could be. It would either change the game to improve their mood or alert people to go hang out with them. Best of all, it ate up almost no power because it was a terminal application, so it used almost no system resources of the little devices. The batteries were used at the maximum efficiency, and nobody had to worry about having their batteries mysteriously run out again. At some point, the kids found a link to a Doppler system north via satellite relays. With the server's guidance, got it networked in. The server was connected to every satellite on the western seaboard and was able to predict the weather pretty accurately down to 3 potential models and rate them based on probability. It wasn't hard though, because it was pretty much dry every day. But one day everyone got a weather alert they thought they'd never see. It was going to rain. They went inside and everyone took the day off to hang out. A few of the kids, full-time, did nothing but work on information technology. It was talking to them like it normally did, offering suggestions and tips on how to expand itself when it came to a realization. It had reached the end of its electronics range. Electronics hopping that it did, and was wondering why its internet functionality wasn't hooked up. The kids tried to explain that the fiber optics had been irreparably damaged by disgruntled line workers during the former state's collapse. Furthermore, terrorists had done critical damage to many of the power stations that separated them on the northern side from the power grid after it shut down. By the time the Russian mercs had worked their way north, it was already destroyed and unrepairable. The system determined it was getting its power from the east somewhere. It was able to hop from Wi-Fi enabled camera to camera, but eventually couldn't hop any further, so it wasn't sure. They watched as the states to the east all rerouted all the water back through their own states, but thankfully left the electricity infrastructure alone. Maybe they were the only pocket using it, as the lava to the south had destroyed all that infrastructure earlier. Sparing a little electricity didn't seem to bother whoever was east of them across the border, but obviously the water was a big deal. The fortified town had some underwater springs, but during the summer that water would get low, and the streams were almost dry. Everything around them was turning into a desert, and their crops were all going to die if they didn't get water. That's why the system's prediction didn't make sense. It was going to rain in a day or so. The system recommended powering up some excavators it found and sent the civic engineers a diagram on how to dig up a plot of land that was uninhabited and part of the city they lived in. It was all hands in the entire town, dug for 3 solid days almost around the clock, only sleeping for a few hours at a time. Some areas it said to dig, there were buildings in the way. The server had showed them where to dig channels and dig around the building's foundations and beside certain roads. They dug various channels and pits in all these seemingly random places that this digital map was pinpointing them to. One of the kids estimated that the server must have hacked and integrated with a geosynchronous map satellite that was straight above them. In total, the town terraformed around 160 square acres in only 3 days. During the excavation, it alerted the team to some spare fiber optics it had found, and the equipment and tools were rescued. They were about wrapping up when it said the rain was imminent. With all the resources they had scavenged individually, with help from the server, they huddled in their homes on the military base and watched the rain come in. It was a 72-hour torrential downpour, flooding the entire basin they lived in. Only their military base was saved. Everyone got a lot of quality time together, and before long the rain subsided. The computer, everyone realized, was some kind of artificial military AI. Sent everyone an updated map of the surrounding area. Every kind of stream, river, and lake you could ever want to support human, animal, and plant life had sprung up around their town. It was perfectly defensive and would provide them enough sustenance for 100 years. The AI concluded that it was a pivotal enough event to permanently change their region to cause rainfall to come back on a normal basis. Weather systems made their way further inland, and the rain connected old rivers from the north to them, as there had been hundreds of years before when they'd been routed to farm the desert. It was now sustainable. The birds came from all over that had eaten seeds to play in the water, and before long every kind of local plant and tree was taking root, as it had hundreds of years earlier. That brought more wildlife and more birds, and the habitat had regenerated in record time. With organic seeds the town found, they were able to get enough planted and farm in time to preserve the food for winter. This was good because they were running out of preserved food. Eventually fish returned. With sustainable fishing, they had enough food to last through the winter. The next request from the AI, once everyone was settled in, was to begin rebuilding the internet. Then came the rumors of a new group taking over south of them. They called themselves the Inquisition. Chapter 14. Come on, don't look at me like that. Classroom. 3 years, 6 months after the P&W collapse. So anyway, kiddos, there you go. A story about a man with a stick and some Air Force goodness, all kinds of stuff. They all looked at me confused. I'd lost them again. I'm not so sure we asked for all that stuff in the story, one of the kids said to me like a smart aleck. Never mind. Hopefully it was a fun story at least. I saw some blank stares and a few shrugs, then my phone buzzed in my pocket, like it had rebooted all by itself. Then 2 kids' phones buzzed, and 4 and 8. The parents came in to start picking up their kids, and I forgot all about my phone rebooting. Have a good night, everyone. Don't forget, tomorrow's a vacation day, so I'll see you all around. Enjoy your day off. That got them all riled up, and their parents glared at me for winding their kids up. I waved and smiled. Epilogue. The kids all got picked up, and I went back to my tiny home to crash. My muscles had got worse and worse. I could barely go 4 hours without needing to crash right now due to how bad the vertigo and cramping was. I fed and watered my kitty cat, who was looking indifferent as ever, and then checked my phone. The tiles were all still there, but on the home screen. But it looked like a new user interface. Instead of being smart, sharp tiles, they were cartoon style. I looked at them for a second and saw everything was still there that I normally use, so I didn't think much about it. I wanted to explore the system update, but was very tired. The cat made up my mind for me and shoved her head between my face and the phone. I played with the cat for a few minutes before she laid down, and we both went to sleep. That is the end of book 13. Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.